The surge in false negatives. Many people with COVID 19 symptoms have been testing negative. There are several likely reasons, such as mutations of the virus escaping detection, quality of sampling and testing, and efficacy of RT PCR kits. As India struggles to cope with the unprecedented demand for RT-PCR tests, reports suggest that up to 20% symptomatic COVID-19 patients are testing negative. This apparent trend of false negative results may deny serious patients hospital admission and critical care while letting asymptomatic ones move around and spread the virus. The trend has prompted experts, including AIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria, to recommend COVID 19 treatment for everyone showing classic symptoms, irrespective of RT PCR results. So, why false negatives? RT-PCR tests considered the RT-PCR tests considered the gold standard in the diagnosis of COVID-19 are not meant to be perfect. The minimum sensitivity ability to detect positives demanded by the Indian Council of Medical Research for validating an RT-PCR test is 95%. That means up to 5% false negative results are expected. While anecdotal reports suggest that the share of false negative results is on the rise across India, there is no study yet to back this. In theory, four broad factors determine the accuracy of RT-PCR test: the viral load in the person, the quality of sample collection and processing, the efficacy of the test kit itself, and also the benchmark for test interpretation. Viral load. Typically, COVID 19 manifests adequately by the fifth day of an infection cycle. Tested any sooner post exposure, an infected person may turn out COVID negative. This may not be a major factor behind the recent false negative trend, as certain COVID 19 mutants apparently show early symptoms. A number of symptomatic patients who tested false negative in RT-PCR assays have subsequently been confirmed COVID positive in bronchoalveolar lavage (BAL) tests that collect samples from the lower respiratory tract through a bronchoscope. This has led to conjectures that certain mutants bypass the upper respiratory tract to target the lung, a scenario that may deny an RT-PCR test based on sample collected from the nasal cavity and throat, the viral load required for an accurate result. Capacity explosion. The number of COVID test labs in India increased from 14 in February 2020 to more than 2,400 in April 2021. Such a rapid expansion requiring approving hundreds of labs for RT-PCR testing and training thousands of technicians in a hurry. As a safeguard, ICMR in July 2020 listed 30 quality control labs to check on all the COVID labs it approved. Another 8 quality control labs have been added since. However, sources in multiple labs across 3 states said only a few inspections of facilities and instruments took place. Ideally, a mix of positive and negative samples should be picked up at random from every lab periodically for retesting. Was that ever done? Yes. Was that consistently? No, said a scientist with an ICMR institute who is not authorized to speak to the media. Approached for periodic lab monitoring and quality compliance data since July 2020, ICMR and a number of quality control labs remained silent. The human element. Tests can go wrong at various stages. From bad sample collection and storage to faulty extraction and amplification, all RT-PCR kits include an internal control to safeguard against a scenario when no RNA is extracted amplified, leading to false negative. The IC can be exogenous or endogenous. It is exogenous when an artificial RNA template molecule is added to each sample before RNA extraction. The test is considered void when the synthetic RNA is not detected post extraction and a retest is prescribed. And an endogenous control uses a human housekeeping gene present in the sample. Its not detection after the RNA extraction procedure invalidates the test. A human housekeeping gene also ensures the sample quality, but over 75% of RT-PCR kits in the Indian market use the cheaper exogenous internal control, said a Mumbai-based molecular biologist. ICMR's April 2020 SOP on RT-PCR held that exogenous control for extraction can be ignored and as it will not reflect the quality of the sample collected. It recommended separate RNs or any other human housekeeping gene should be run parallel in a separate tube to check both the quality or sample collected and the extraction procedure. In May 2020, the mega tender floated by ICMR/HLL for RT-PCR kits specified similar requirements. A number of manufacturers argued different companies use different internal controls, including exogenous ones, which were approved by regulatory agencies such as FDA and CIVD, and that adverse selection based on housekeeping genes would discourage fair competition. Eventually, the tender was revised to include endogenous and exogenous options for internal control. Viral mutation. A RT-PCR tests target specific areas of one or more viral genes to detect its presence. A test may return false negatives results if mutation occurs in the segment of a genome assessed. Tests that use multiple genetic targets like the ones in use in India are less likely to be fooled by mutations. Regulators such as US FDA routinely monitor the impact of mutations on RT-PCR tests, while experts such as Dr. Rakesh Misra, director of Hyderabad Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, feel ICMR should initiate a similar exercise. It may not be easy to monitor real-time over 200 RT-PCR kits approved in India against emerging mutations. For one, no manufacturer has or will made public the detailed sequences its test target. While submitting for validation to ICMR, they only mention the target genes and not the primary sequence. Until now, though there is ground to feel fairly confident even in the absence of any real-time efficacy, so far COVID-19 variants have mainly S genes mutations. Majority of kits use conserved regions of targets. In 1 year, the price of RT-PCR kits fell from Rs 1,100 to Rs 40. Since import duty exemption was withdrawn in October 2020, most foreign brands left the Indian market due to the additional 15% cost burden. A number of Indian brands too have been refusing to sell below Rs 100. Many have been found dedicated corporate clientele who do not mind paying a little extra to ensure quality. Some are even offering multiple PCR kits at different price levels. While nobody says it on record, many questions on the quality of the cheaper competition. The counter view is that every test kit available in the market meets ICMR's validation benchmarks, and that any price war ultimately benefits the consumer. Not everyone is convinced though. The corresponding drop in the cost of the lab test is from Rs 4,500 to Rs 800. Besides, does one visiting a local lab for a COVID test know which kit is being used? How many labs will spend Rs 100 when they can get with using Rs 40 kit, said one of the first Indian manufacturers of COVID PCR kits. The CT value. An RT-PCR test amplifies the nucleic acid extracted from the sample to detect the one specific to the COVID-19 virus. The amplification happens in cycles with a threshold value. Clearly, the higher the viral presence load, the lower the CT value or the number of amplification cycles required to make it detectable. ICMR set the city value at Rs 35 for negative results. Beyond this, any trace of virus potentially present is deemed negligible and the sample is ruled COVID negative. But certain states such as Maharashtra sought to stress the limit of admissibility by suggesting a city value of 24, as this would exclude potentially a large number of people with quantitatively lower but clinically significant viral load. ICMR reiterated its position on a city value of 35. However, there is a little clarity if all the states are following the same city benchmark. According to a senior executive of at least two multi-state lab networks, they have received contradictory and at times unwarranted verbal instructions on such test parameters. Even a molecule test is not immune to subjective bias. Thank you.